work on quantum-inspired genetic algorithm for sustainable logistics management. So please take your time.
Okay, thank you for your introduction. For our session, we have recorded the video first. And for online participant, you are free to key in your question in the chat box at any time. And we will answer your questions at the end of the video presentation, along with the on-site participants' questions. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, no matter where you are. Welcome to our sessions. I'm Dr. Lo. Mr. Shih will do the presentation with me. Our paper title is Quantum-Inspired Genetic Algorithm for Sustainable Logistics Management. We will use about 20 minutes of time for the PowerPoint presentation, followed by 10 minutes QA sessions.
Hello everyone, my name is Yi-Cheng Shih, and this is our agenda, including introduction, research methodology, experiments, and conclusions. And first, I will introduce our research background. Global warming and climate changing are ongoing issues right now and require immediate attention around the world. They are related to the emissions of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And according to the Institute for Environmental Analytics, global temperatures have increased by over 1.2 degrees Celsius in past 170 years. And one of important observations during the pandemic of COVID-19 is that many regions have been locked down for several months. And at the same time, the pollutants in the atmosphere also reduced around 9 to 64%. And it is obvious that human activities have significant influence on the amount of the pollutants in the atmosphere. Therefore, how to reduce the emission of greenhouse gases during our daily life and industries has become an important issue. And then I will talk about sustainable logistics management. If we have an inefficient logistic management, what will happen? Our trucks will travel for a longer distance and consume more fuel. And of course, it will cause a lot more greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide or other greenhouse gases. And pollution routing problems, PRP, is one of the variety of VRPs, which aims to minimize the amount of pollutants produced during the delivery process. So our research objective is to solve the PRPs, which aims to minimize the CO2 emission during the delivery. We also propose a two-phase hybrid model to solve the PRPs. The hybrid model combining clustering method and quantum-inspired genetic algorithm, QIGA. And this is our problem proposition. We focus on the problem having single depots with a capacity constraint of each truck. When the decision variable xijk equal to 1, means that vehicle k is in the trough from node I to node j. And in this research, we assume that the amount of emission of CO2 has a linear relationship with the total weight of the truck, which is the sum of the demand's weight and the vehicle's weight. And the objective function is to minimize the accumulation of CO2 emission for each route. And here are our constraints. And these two are to make sure that every customer is served by one and only track, and this one is this one is for the route continuity. And this one is for the capacity constraint, and these two are to ensure the truck's ability does not exceed, and the last one is to eliminate any subtool. And here are our notations. And the first phase of our hybrid model is two-stage clustering method. And we first use the sweep algorithm to generate the initial k-centers of weight for each cluster, and then integrate these initial k-centers of weight into the k-means algorithm with capacity constraint, and then use the k-means algorithm to dispatch the customer to k vehicles. And this picture is an example of our clustering method. And the second phase of our hybrid model is content-inspired genetic algorithm, QIGA. The QIGA, the process of QIGA is similar to the traditional GA, and also containing with initialization, evaluation, selection, crossover, and mutation. And in this research, we choose integer representation to represent our DNA sequence. And first is initialization. In the initialization, we do the parameter setting and insert the sequence that was the result from the clustering process. And then we randomize the initial sequences several times to become the initial population. And for evaluation part, we evaluate each of the populations through its finished value. That is, we input the DNA sequence into the objective function and then output the finished value. And for selection part, we use the modified roulette wheel method to choose the parents for the crossover part. And this is the probability of being selected for each individual. And then I will introduce our crossover part. Traditional GA has only one crossover method to produce offspring, and which means that each individual can only search for the solution in one dimension for each iteration. In our research, and we develop a new crossover process, and we introduce 4 different kinds of crossover method, and the probability of being selected is related to the offspring's finished value produced by the method. So it means that our model continue 啊，therefore, each individual can search for the solution in 4 dimensions, and which is for each iteration, which is inspired by the quantum computing, that each qubit can search in multiple dimensions or even infinite dimensions. And then I will introduce 4 different kinds of crossover method in detail. First one is partially made crossover. Partially made crossover will randomly choose a sequence of elements. For this example is from the 4th one to the 7th one, and then exchange the element from each other, and then preserve the relationship between this position, like 4 and 8 and 5 and 2 and 7 and 5. And then we can find that there are some repeated parts, and we will fix the repeated part from the relation we have stored. And then we will get the offspring. And the next one is order 1 crossover. Order 1 crossover will also first randomly choose a sequence of elements and preserve the elements, and then input and then fill in the empty elements with the other parent's white part. For example, parent 1 will fill in the empty parts with the parent's white part 1 and 4. But 4 is repeated, so it comes to the next one. So it's 1 and 9 and 3 and 7. And the third one is cycle crossover. Cycle crossover will first randomly choose a start position for the parent 1. For example, parent 1 will choose first position as a start position, and then the next position will according to the element of the mapping position of parent 2. In this example, the one will map 9, and 9 will choose the next position for the parent 1, and 9 and 4 and 4 and 8, and continue the process until the cycle occurs, and preserve the elements in this position and exchange the others, and we will get the offspring. And the last one is modified order crossover. Modified order crossover will first choose a split point for the sequence and separate the sequence into gray part and white part. And for this example, parent 1 will preserve the element that is mapped with the gray part of parent 2, 3, 7, and 8 and 9, and then fill in the white empty part with the white part of the parent 2. So it will be like 2, 6, and 5, and 1, and 4. And we will get the offspring. And for the mutation part, we will first generate a random number from 0 to 1 and compare to the mutation probability we have set. If the random number is below or equal to the probability, we will do the mutation process. In this research, we apply two-point exchange method to complete the process. That is, randomly choose two positions of the sequence and exchange the elements of the position, and we will get a mutated offspring. And all the randomness in the QIGA are generated by the quantum random number generator, QRNG, and we use the R package. We use the R function Q random unit function to connect to the Australian National University QRNG server, and the server will access to their QRNG to return the true random numbers and integrate into our QIGA. And this is a quantum technology timeline. And with the development of quantum mechanics research in recent years, and quantum technology has been applied in several fields like quantum sensing, quantum information processing, quantum communication, quantum computing, and quantum computer. And the quantum random number generator we have used is in the quantum information processing field. And QRNG can provide a true random number because of the inherent randomness of quantum system, and make the quantum system become a perfect source of entropy. And then I will talk about our experiment. we use 30 different kinds of instance, including set A, set B, and set E. And for each instance, we ran the test for 30 times. And after finish the DOE, the parameter setting is as following. Iteration per run is 10,000. Population is 100. Crossover probability is 0.95. Mutation probability is 0.025. And here are our research table. And the instance names is like this. A and B and E represent the which set of the instance to belong, and N represent the number of the nodes, and K represent the number of the vehicles. And from the results, we can find out that our model can provide good solution with small standard deviations. And these are the best routing problem for our model. And then this instance has 22 nodes and 4 vehicles. And then this one has 76 nodes and 7 vehicles. And we can find that the models can produce fair solution quality for small scale problems or bigger scale problems. And sometimes there are some cross intersection that should not occur in traditional TSPs, because our objective function not only consider distance but also the total weight of the vehicles. And which means that those customers having less demands may have a higher priority to be served. And then is our conclusion. And in this research, we proposed a clustering method that is a two-stage clustering method, combining the sweep algorithm and k-means algorithm with capacity constraint. And then we use the proposed quantum-inspired genetic algorithm, QIGA, to do the optimization. And then after the experience, we find out that the hybrid model provides good solution quality with small standard deviation. And CO2 emission minimization provides lower fuel consumption and smaller environmental impact to follow one of 17 sustainable development goals set by the United Nations. And thank you for listening.
Okay, that's all for our presentations. Next, we will go to the Q&A sessions. So if you have any questions, just push the raise hand button, or you can type your questions in the message box.
Hi.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, hi. Can you provide some insight into why quantum-based, what is quantum-based in this and why does that help? I'm trying to understand. It looks like a genetic algorithm. So what is the value that the quantum-based thinking, whatever quantum-inspired, quantum-based thinking for this problem is, what is it providing basically?
Okay, for quantum computing, we try to observe the concept from their search mechanism. Originally, the design of quantum, they want to search for dimension for infinity dimensions. And but right now, due to hardware and software restrictions, we are not able to do that. So what we do is to modify the quantum, so modify genetic algorithms and add more search function inside crossover and also mutations, allow the algorithms to be able to serve to finite dimensions in our algorithm, not to infinity, but to finite. But of course, in the future, if software and hardware available by quantum computers, these algorithms are able to extend it to the original quantum concept inside quantum computing areas. That's for our algorithms, at least one part of the algorithms. As for there are also other possibilities to modify this algorithm which we do not use in these papers is use the so-called qubit, the so-called quantum bit to replace the chromosome representations. Right now in our algorithms, we still use a binary bit like chromosomes. But in the future, if hardware or software permit, this may be able to replace with the qubit to use to represent the DNA sequence in the genetic algorithms. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions. Any other questions or a question from online participant?
Shih-Che, this is
Yes.
I guess this is a follow-up question from Kapil's question earlier. I'm not. I have to admit I'm not familiar with these quantum theories or concepts. So can you maybe share with us some of the key, I guess, key results or key findings in this area which you actually use in your algorithm here? So like what kind of concepts from quantum theory that you sort of adopt and then bring into your algorithm?
Oh, okay. Original genetic algorithms, the so-called crossover and the mutation usually only have one type of crossover and only one type of mutations. And for our models, and also we coded into computer softwares, we extend the models into 4 different types for both crossover and also for mutations. So it allows quantum number generators to randomly pick the so-called either crossover or mutation mechanism for the algorithm to one by one iterations for that. And one of the important changes from original algorithm is the random number generators. Originally, if you choose any of the random numbers, sometimes and usually it will follow the so-called probability distribution. For example, like normal distribution or uniform distributions, when you try to acquire the so-called random numbers, usually it will follow some certain probability distribution. But in our algorithms, we try to input this quantum computing concept, and the random number that we acquire do not follow any patterns. So the search dimensions is randomly, totally randomly, do not have any probability inside that. That will be the pure modify about the original quantum algorithms. But however, due to the search dimensions are still limited, so the final performance about this quantum genetic algorithm actually do not show very high performance or superior than other traditional meta-heuristic algorithms. Usually, it can almost perform the same levels, but not very high superior due to the search mechanism and the dimension we still restrict in the finite dimensions. So this part is of course different from the original quantum computing concept. Yeah, but we try to embedded this concept into the algorithms. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Shih-Che, can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I think this is just related. I think you made one claim which that you mentioned that you are able to generate a purely random variables. Is that using an algorithm or using a hardware?
Oh, because we do not have quantum computers here, so
No. They are random. They are hardwares that sells. There's one that is usually when computer we generate pseudo random variables.
yes,
Pseudo number, right?
yes.
But you say that the number is purely random. That to me is a big result if this is true, right? Unless so in this case, are you referring to using a hardware to obtain a random variable?
The random number we acquire from Australia National University, they do have quantum computers. And
okay, so you use those random numbers.
Yes, we
So-
acquire from
Okay.
the server. They provide the server. So every time we require random number, we send a request to the quantum computers, and they will throw back
Okay,
quantum
okay.
random number for us.
Okay. Yeah, then you can also acquire hardware, right? That is that you don't need a quantum. This hardware available, right? But this that
Available in Australia, not in Taiwan.
no, you can actually get it.
Yeah.
It's not those you ask casino and so forth. They can. It's not that difficult to
Yes.
get those. It's quite.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. That clarified. So in other words, the random number generator is acquired from somewhere else.
Yes, from somewhere else, but it's from the quantum computers. Yes.
Right. Okay.
Thank you. Oh, by the way, Mr. Who asked the question whether the recording made available. I think I will talk to the host of NUS whether they want to have this video recording. Of course, we can deliver the recording to the host if they want to have this video. That's okay. No problem for us. Any other questions from online participant or on site?
Oh, any other questions? If no, Data thanks Dr. Lo for their interesting talk.
Okay, thank you.